Welcome into another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast here on Sports Illustrated from the Fans for Sports Network. I'm Tom Cavanaugh, and today we're going to be recapping a very disappointing loss in the Crosstown Showdown at the Rose Bowl, the Battle of Los Angeles between USC and the UCLA Bruins. A 19-13 win for the Trojans. It was a very disappointing game late for UCLA. They had a lead going into the final minutes of the fourth quarter. Trojans put up 10 points in their final couple of drives to overtake UCLA and win 19-13. When you look at the stats, the Bruins defensively played incredible. They did all they could to win this ball game. I mean, USC, they haven't put up 19 points in their last 7 games, dating back to week 5 when they put up 17 against Minnesota. So this Bruins team, I mean, against a really strong Trojans offense, did a very, very good job of limiting not only senior running back Woody Marks, having his worst game in the last 7. Jaden Mayava, he was okay, threw for a little bit over 220. But overall, defensively, they held up really well in the first half. The Bruins, going into halftime, they were trailing only 3 field goals, 9 total points at halftime. It was a 9-3 lead at the half for USC. And 12 plays in the first half inside the 10-yard line for the Trojans. They were not able to score a touchdown. Both teams only able to score 1 TD apiece. And the late one from the Trojans was the difference. When you break it down, Bruins were up 13-9 with 8 minutes to go. A bad punt put the Trojans in solid field position, getting the ball actually at the UCLA 43-yard line. And they went right down the field in just 3 plays in a minute and 20. Scored a touchdown, took the lead, tacked on a field goal late, and the Bruins did a really nice job on that late field goal to hold. The Trojans were once again knocking on the door to score a touchdown, and once again, the Bruins defense bowed up, played well, forced the field goal to keep it a 1-score game, and the Bruins 4 straight incompletions, unable to get it done on the offensive side pretty much all day. When you look at Ethan Garbers, he didn't have a bad night. He was 20-29 passing for 265 yards and 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. The Bruins did not turn the ball over today, which has been an issue for them in the past, although they did turn the ball over on downs several times. 3 times they did that, twice in their final 2 possessions, and that's where they went wrong. They had a 4th and 1 where offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy called a QB sneak. Garbers was posted up at the line, did not get the line to gain. He was stuffed in their own zone. That's when USC was able to go down and score those extra 3. And then the Bruins, with just a little over a minute to play, they had 4 downs, didn't convert on any of their passes, and that's how the game ended. Garbers in the second half at one point was 11 for 11 for over 150 yards through the air. I mean, he was dialed in, and he was throwing to a guy that has only played 5 games this year coming in, J. Michael Sturdivant. The kid is a junior that wasn't on a lot of people's radar coming into the game when it comes to key players. But my goodness, 5 catches for 117 yards. He went off, several sensational grabs, put the team in great positions, especially a diving grab down to the 5-yard line. And this is a great example of what I was talking about with UCLA. Sturdivant makes a diving play down to the 5-yard line. The next 2 ensuing plays for UCLA, false start, back him up 5 yards, and a 6-yard sack on Garbers. Ethan was sacked 3 times, but that was the biggest one to back up UCLA to a deep field goal. Mateen Bagani was good today, hitting all 3 of his field goals that he attempted. But it was really just the red zone execution that poisoned the Bruins tonight, unable to score enough points to win this ball game. 13 is not going to get it done against the USC team. And still they scored the Trojans only 19 points. So tip your cap to the Bruins defense. They are not at fault tonight. It's more so on the offensive side. But when you look around the stat sheet, you see 117 from Sturdivant. You see 265 throwing for Garbers through the air. And then you look at the rush game. Who would have thought that the Bruins were going to outrush the Trojans tonight and lose? My goodness, 111 total rushing yards for UCLA, only 86 for the Trojans. Woody Marks, as we mentioned, 76 rushing yards, no touchdowns on 18 carries. His worst game since in his last 7, as I said a few minutes ago. That's the second time in the last 3 games that you've been able to hold a top running back in the Big Ten and the entire nation to under their season average. One of their worst games of the season, did it to Caleb Johnson, holding him to just under 50 yards. And now Marks only goes for 76. His longest run was 16, so he really didn't break out for anything huge. Defensively, well done from the Bruins. And you look at TJ Harden, he had a really nice game. He was trying to kind of revive what he did last year, replicate his performance in the win. Harden was just a sophomore when they took down USC last year. He posted 142 yards, a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown. And this year, 98 yards on 14 carries, 0 touchdowns. They established the run well. Harden between the tackles was perfect. When they got him out in space, he was good too. He did catch 3 passes for 37 yards. He was used fairly often in the pass game. And then when you look at the rest of the receivers, Titus Makai Atimalala, he had 49 yards on 6 catches. Quasi Gilmer had 3 catches for 38 yards. We mentioned Sturdivant, who went crazy today. Maliki Matavao, he had 2 receptions for 15 yards and the only touchdown of the day for UCLA. And that was a big one. It came in the third quarter to give the Trojans a 13-9 lead because they were trailing for pretty much the entire contest. Were able to overtake 10-9. They kicked a field goal to go up 13-9, and that was all she wrote as USC was able to tack on double digits. And that's what happened against Washington last week. The Bruins had the game in hand. I'm not saying they were going to win outright, or they were just going to win the ball game because there was a lot of game left to play. But the Huskies last week went down and scored 17 straight points in their last 3 drives to win it. So when you look at it, you see similarities here. And then when you look over at the team stats as well, another game where the Bruins have a myriad of penalties, 8 penalties for 70 yards. And we mentioned the false start when they were in the red zone. There were multiple penalties that came into play. There was a block in the back. There was unsportsmanlike conduct. There were different untimely penalties, you could say, that cost the Bruins to give the Trojans better field position, make it easier for them to go down the field and score. When you outgain a team 376 to 346, you outgain them through the air and you outgain them rushing. There's no reason you should lose the ball game and only score 13 points. So it was really you look at third down efficiency. The Trojans weren't very good at 4 of 14, but the Bruins were a little worse, 3 of 11, and they were 0 of 3 on fourth down. Trojans were 1 of 2 on fourth down. So that's a huge difference right there. Besides those couple of stats, the Bruins dominated in almost every single other category. Neither team turned the ball over when it comes to interceptions or fumbles. But then we talked about the 8 penalties for UCLA. Trojans only had 2 for 25 yards. So it's a major difference, and you see that week in, week out with UCLA as they're dominating the penalties when it comes to themselves being flagged. This is the lowest penalty total they've had in the last 6 games with 8. They had 9 or 10 in all of the last 5 games that they had played. Time of possession was just a tick in the favor of UCLA as well. Their yards per pass, their yards per carry. They didn't have as many rush attempts, but they did rush for more. So when you look all around this ball game, it screams a UCLA win at home, but they just weren't able to come out with it. It was a very disappointing, crushing loss for multiple reasons. Obviously, these seniors and the entire team want to win this rivalry game, especially head coach Deshaun Foster, who has pretty much been brought up in this rivalry since his his playing career began. Quarterback Ethan Garbers, he grew up in this rivalry as a Southern California native. And then on top of that, the Bruins are no longer bowl eligible. They needed to win their final 2 games of the year to become 6-6 and qualify for a bowl game. That will not happen anymore as they picked up their 7th loss. They're 4-7 currently with a 3-6 record in the conference, and they'll move on next week at home to play Fresno State to finish out the year, hopefully on a high note, looking to be able to send off the seniors and send this team out on the right note. Because a loss like this is one you're going to reflect on for a long time. Because when you look at the stats and you look at just how the game was played, it was UCLA. I mean, to be honest, the Trojans had no business winning this ball game at all. Didn't run the ball well. Their quarterback played okay. I mean, Mayava, he was supposed to be a running quarterback, 4 carries for -9 yards. So he was dropped in the backfield multiple times. Give a lot of credit to Carson Schwessinger. He was once again the lead tackler for the Bruins. 12 tackles, 10 of them solo. Oluwafemi Oladeo, he had 7 tackles and a sack, also 1.5 tackles for loss. KJ Wallace, he had 3.5 tackles for loss. So the Bruins were in the backfield all day, and they did a really nice job against Marks, against Mayava, and against several of the receivers for USC, stopping them in big, big spots in the red zone and in the end zone. So for the rest of this week, we're going to take about a day to recap this, kind of hash over some of the things that plagued UCLA in their loss on Saturday night. They're going to regroup, get back to work this week, and try to play for something against Fresno State to end your season on a win, get to 5-7. Definitely not the season that head coach Deshaun Foster and his group had in mind. They wanted to win 3 out of 4 against USC in the last 4 years. Garbers wanted to be back-to-back winners as a starting quarterback against this team. It did not come to fruition tonight as the Trojans were able to come out with a 19-13 win, scoring 10 points in their final 2 drives down the stretch in the final 8 minutes to win by 6. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you again next time here on the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. You can follow myself, Tom Cavanaugh, at TCav30 on Twitter/X, and also our insider pages at UCLA Insider on SI. Thanks so much. We'll see you again tomorrow.